So then let's talk about what Highlands does and how did this all transpire with Highlands, and what makes it so unique as it pertains to their goals and their missions. What is the purpose of Highlands?
Yeah, I don't know any. There might be other schools like Highlands. I don't know of any. But Highlands originally, I remember when Highlands first started, maybe about 10 years ago, as a charter school. And I didn't think much of it. Okay, here's a charter school starting for adults, that kind of thing. But now when I've come back to being involved with Highlands, it's totally different than what it started as 10 years ago. I shouldn't say different, it's just more. It's very small, it was classroom based. Now it has technical training, job training, has job placement, has English language classes, and it's huge compared to what it was. So it started for ex-offenders, trying to lift ex-offenders up, and now it's really primary is still ex-offenders, but just people in general in underserved communities, providing education and resources so they can lift themselves up. And the way I look at it is, if your mom or dad didn't have a high school education, and now you get a high school education, well, most likely your kids are at least going to have a high school education. They're probably going to go farther than you did.
Right.
So you're not just changing the lives of the people that are in the program like right now, but you're generationally changing, because you're going to make more money, you're going to have a higher education, you're going to have the ability to provide more for your kids, and probably most importantly, provide a great example for your kids.
Right. Now, in terms of some of the curriculum and stuff that they offer, how is that effective, and is the curriculum designed specifically to meet those target demographics that you're talking about, or is it just kind of an open, normal school? Tell us a little bit about the curriculum.
So there's both in-class and independent study, but it's high school. So you're taking math, English, those sort of things, and you don't get a GED, you get a high school diploma.
Okay.
And then the technical side has things like business school, cosmetology, truck driving, welding, and those are expanding all the time. So whether it's from certificates to just training period, that you can get a job in those sort of things. And there's, like, for example, through the truck driving school, there's stories of people getting their high school diploma and then going to the truck driving school and walking out the door with a $90,000 a year job. And probably one of the biggest things about Highlands is it's all free. So I have a...
So there's no fee at all to attend Highlands Charter School?
There's none. Not only that, but you get a phone and a laptop when you sign up.
So how do you... Okay, so if that be the case, okay, how do you guys get people to understand that these type of things that are going on in Highlands, and how do you reach out to them and make people understand? Are you looking for students of a certain age bracket, or...
Good question.
What are we doing?
Yeah, so they have to be... It's adult charter school, so you have to be 22 years old or older and not have a high school diploma. So if you have a GED, you can go here, and basically you're switching from a GED to actual high school diploma, which is always good. But there's a large percentage of the population that are immigrants to our country, so there's English language learning classes. But we're really looking for people that are trying to raise up their circumstances and get an education and get training for basically for your future.
Right.
Like, how do you want to improve the future for not only yourself but your kids? And it's free. So I have a family member that just paid thousands of dollars for truck driving school, and then it kind of fell through. And there's some shenanigans there, but I'm thinking you get that same thing at Highlands. He has a high school diploma, so he wouldn't qualify for Highlands, but you get it for free.
So
Same thing.
Now, coming from your standpoint, you know better than anybody about the demographics as it pertains to African American boys, especially in that age bracket that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem we have, because they're kind of like vulnerable to a lot of things. They don't have a high school diploma, they don't have a GED, so they can't get a job, they don't have the skill sets, right? And so this school is here, and it's kind of a perfect scenario for them. So how do we get the African American young men to understand the importance of what's happening here in Highlands? How can we reach out to them?
Yeah, well, we're working on that every day on new ways to, because really what it is when, different groups require different outreach, right? People do things for different reasons. So a lot of the people that are immigrating to this country come to Highlands because they need to learn English, and Highlands provides that for free. Well, obviously the African American community in Sacramento already know English,
right?
So they wouldn't come here to learn English. They will learn how to write and do those things better because it's school. But I just think when they see both education coupled with the results of getting a better job, creating better circumstances for their families. But the reason why there's crime and things in neighborhoods like the Heights is because a lot of that's because of poverty. And if we want to change what we always talk about every day, violent crime that's going on, shootings, all these sort of things, then we have to do things that are going to address poverty. And some neighborhoods have a lot of resources,
right,
and some neighborhoods don't. And so Highlands isn't 100% of all the answers, but it provides resources in communities that might not otherwise have those resources, and provides opportunities for people to lift themselves, take pride and lift themselves above their current circumstances.
Now, are there Highlands schools all over Sacramento, or just this one?
Oh no, there's I don't know what we're at now, 25 different sites, even in other cities in the Bay Area, Los Angeles. So yeah, that's a good question, because if you're in the South area, you could go to school in the South area. You wouldn't have to come all the way to Highlands. Like the truck driving schools off of Power Inn. We have a media studio for people to learn how to edit video, take video, audio, all those sort of things. So it's expanding pretty much daily. But there's sites all over, North area, downtown, South area, East area. So, and we do that on purpose so people, can go to school in their neighborhood. And there's daycare for small children, because a lot of students have small children. Well, they're not going to go to class if they're going to leave their 2-year-old at home. Well, they can come to the site we're at right now. The daycare center is right there.
And so the daycare services are free as well?
Everything is free at Highlands. And so the daycare is also used as training. So there's students that work in the daycare center to go into the field of play care, daycare type stuff.
Wow. So they have electives as well. So they're just like going to high school. So they'll be able to take their core classes, but then they have some of the electives. What are some of the electives? I know you mentioned truck driving. What are some of the other?
Yeah, the electives are the technical schools. So truck driving, business school, cosmetology, welding. I'll show you the board when we leave. But those are expanding every day. We're working on.
They get certificates in those other specific fields.
The ones that need certificates, like truck driving school. The teacher at the truck driving school will take you all the way through your test.
Oh, okay.
So when you leave there, you have a truck driving driver's license.
Right. So is the demographic that you guys are serving now, is that mostly immigrants, or is it mostly women? What are you guys seeing enrolling in Highlands right now? What are you seeing is happening?
Yeah, I don't have the exact stats on the top of my head, but like you'll see in college, there's a little bit more women than men. Right.
That's about, yeah.
Sometimes women are a little more dedicated at that age, but there's a large portion of it are immigrants. We can do, we're working on doing better with African American, Hispanic. We have an equity initiative program that's specifically devoted to that. Because as we look at our high schools, both our public high schools, private high schools, some of the demographics of people that graduate the least are African American, and Hispanic. So they're out there without high school diplomas, and your options are much more limited when you don't have a high school diploma. And like I said, in addition to your high school diploma, you're going to be getting some technical skills in a field that you want to get it in.
Right. So now there's other schools that's pretty much doing almost the same type of things you guys are doing in terms of offering the diplomas, but just tell us why Highlands, in your estimation, is the one that people should look forward to attending.
Well, I think it's just a much more holistic environment, meaning there's services for daycare while you go to class. There's the technical side, to where not only are you getting your high school diploma, but you're getting some job skills. And then there's also counselors, division within Highlands of counselors to help place you in jobs.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's the goal of education. I mean, of course you want to learn and expand your horizons, but I mean, ultimately people go to college to expand their ability to get jobs and to work and to have options of where you work. As I tell students all the time, that the less you do, the less options you have, and the more you do, the more options you have. And so the better possibility of you doing something for 30 or 40 plus years that you're passionate about, that you like to do, as opposed to being miserable for 8 to 10 hours a day while you're at work, then you're a miserable person in general.
Right.
So it's just a program that we're constantly trying to figure out what different services do we need to have to help people lift themselves above their current circumstance. So, for example, when Highlands first started, there was no daycare. And now we have daycare because the leaders of Highlands at the time realized there's students not coming to class because they had child care issues. Right. Well, let's solve that then.
Right.
Same thing with the jobs. The technical side wasn't there from the beginning, and the independent study wasn't there from the beginning. And then, as you know, COVID hit a few years ago, so had to figure out how can people continue to go to school even though they can't be in a room like a traditional classroom. So now we have all the above. So if you have a job currently, and you can take the independent study online stuff and do it when you get home from work. Like there's not a specific time you have to be in front of that laptop, and you'd still get a high school diploma, but you can work around your work schedule. So, as we continue to progress, we continue to try to eliminate those barriers to people really doing something for themselves, their families, but also the community. The more this community lifts up, it helps our entire city.
Now, with you being here, I know that you have an extensive, magnificent career, of course, in law enforcement. So now, is that going to be one of the curriculums here? And as we're on that topic, how can we get more African Americans involved in the law enforcement industry? I know when we do the Black Expos, we always have a whole area set aside for careers in law enforcement. So how can we encourage to get some equity in that, and maybe Highlands can maybe be a starting point?
Yeah, I'll answer that two ways. Just yesterday, I was speaking to one of the classes out off of Watt Avenue, speaking of different campuses, and I was speaking to them about getting involved with law enforcement and there was a lot of interest in it. And most of the students were fairly recent immigrants, but there was a lot of interest in that. And what people, most people are like I was growing up in Oak Park, where I didn't realize all what police officers could do. I just assumed all officers just drove around in a squad car and arrested people. And that didn't appeal to me, so it never crossed my mind to be a police officer growing up. But as I was telling them, there's a lot of jobs that aren't police officer jobs in police departments. There's a lot of police officer jobs that aren't just driving around in the street. I've been a teacher, I've been a media person, I've been all sorts of different things as a police officer that I never even knew existed when I was a kid. So that's one. I think law enforcement in general has to, advertise, if you will, all the different things you can do in a police department. I've had like 20 different careers as a police officer, and that's pretty cool. So anytime you get a little tired or bored and something, you do a new assignment, but you're still working for the same organization. But the reality of getting, whether it's women or African American in the police officer ranks, is we have to change. We're a male-dominated profession in law enforcement, so we have to address that and in regards to getting women. But in regards to getting African American, like one of the main things, we have to change how law enforcement is viewed in the African American community. It's quite frequently a negative perception. And that's not just, let's put a slick commercial together.
Right.
We have to address the issues of why is there a negative perception about law enforcement in the community, and how can the African American community, by joining the police department, help to change that. And so all too often we don't really address all those things. I mean, the reality is history tells us law enforcement has been the enforcement arm of society, doing some pretty horrible things to the African American community. We have to own that, and we have to address it. And what are we going to do moving forward about those things? We can't ignore it and act like it never happened and expect people to get over it and come on in and put a uniform on. But I think like programs across the street at Grant High School with the academy there, that students wearing police uniforms, Highlands programs where we expose people to the different professions that they can have in law enforcement. And you know, you get a couple people from the neighborhood in the police department and they go back to their neighborhood and talk about it, then that's going to influence a few other people. But the reality is there's a negative perception in certain segments of our society about law enforcement, and if we ignore it, like we've sort of done throughout history, we're going to still have this conversation 20 years from now.
It's absolutely. So now, back to Highlands, a person enrolls, how long does it take them to get their diploma?
Well, that depends, because you can get credit. You can get credits if you're working full time right now. You can get so many credits. If you have a GED, you get credits for certain things. So when people first come in, they meet with a counselor that goes over their transcripts and all what they have already, and then they are able to put a plan together with how many credits and things that they need. So it just depends. Some people a year and a half, some people 6 months, just depends on how much they already have. Like, were they in school for 2 years of high school and then dropped out? But usually it doesn't take much more than 2 years. And then while they're doing that, they're getting their technical training too.
Now, is there an enrollment session? Like, for instance, say, like you said, it could take 2 years or it could take 6 months. Is there a time frame they have to enroll to meet that, or just year round?
They right across where you parked here is where people walk in every day.
Yeah.
And inquire and sign up, and so that's where the enrollment folks meet with them, and then they.
So this is like a year round school where they can just enroll and they'll start you from scratch or where you are, or do you have to catch up with the other students? How does that?
Oh, you just jump in where you are, so then you have to make that the parts that you've missed up.
Right, you have to catch up with those.
You don't have to wait like, oh, I have to wait till September.
Right, that's what I mean. No.
You just start, which is great. When, you know, a lot of times, whether it's, you know, when we're talking about somebody that is on drugs or has other issues, when they're ready, they're ready.
Right.
So if you don't start when somebody's ready, like today somebody might go, okay, I'm ready to start finishing my high school diploma and work on getting a better job. Well, we want to get them started now.
Right.
If we wait 6 months, life happens.
Right.
You might be in a different spot.
Right.
So, yeah, there's people that sign up every day.
Wow. So let's do this. Let's summarize Highlands to the people. This is going to be something that everybody wants to know about Highlands. They see it, they hear about it. They've never been on campus. They have you here now. It's very visible in the community. Highlands is. There are a lot of places. The name is getting out there. It's been around for a while. You know, how do we summarize, you know, this school? If you had to summarize this institution as an education institution, how would you do that?
Well, as you know, I've been working for many, many years in large organizations, and I've never been a part or seen an organization where, like, every single person that works here, like, cares about the mission of what they're doing. Like, they really care about, like, we are helping people find their future. So from teachers to para-educators in the classroom, a lot of the people that went through Highlands are working here now. So not only did they get their education here, but now they're employed here. So they know the value because they got that same value, and they're trying to help other people. So I would just summarize Highlands as an organization that cares a lot about the community, especially the underserved community, and is constantly evolving to meet the needs of people to rise above their current circumstances. And to me, as a community, as a society, these are the things that change people's lives, as opposed to, do we need more officers on the street? In some places, yes. But is that changing people's lives, or is that just holding people accountable and if somebody commits a crime, arrest them? But if we truly want to change communities and change lives, we have to help lift people up to better circumstances, help them lift themselves out of poverty, and be able to provide for their families. Everybody wants to be safe. Everybody wants to provide for their families, and so Highlands is trying to do that. And over the years, they've gotten a lot better at doing it as they continue to add things. I think success speaks for itself. You can walk around this campus and see people walking around that work here that will tell you, I went to Highlands and it changed my life, and now I'm working here. And so you can literally see it.
Okay. And cut there.